Today's guest is Jason Ryals. And one of the things that I love about Jason and his work is that he's not afraid to go against the status quo. He's not afraid to challenge the system, and that's the reason we're talking today. We were really excited to co-author an article in Inside Pitch magazine, and that's been a big thrill. Let me welcome in Jason Ryals.
Thanks for having me, Joe.
Oh, man, this is awesome. It's a long overdue conversation, and we wanted to put the full-length feature here to the idea. Let's get right to it. You know, you're a guy that I've talked a lot to. You've been very generous with your time and your expertise. But last time we talked in the summer, this idea came across my plate from you, which was that the head coach or the person running the offense should be coaching first base. And I can't say I've never heard it before, but I've never heard anyone say it so adamantly as you. Is that still something you stick behind, and what do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I stay behind it. I don't ever go to third unless I have to. It just makes sense, and I like to do stuff that just works. A lot of coaches that I've seen, and they just follow the status quo like everybody else, and they think, "Hey, I'm the head coach, so I must stand at third base." But as me and you've talked over the year or so, I have to know why for everything I do. So if you can't answer me why, then I'm not going to do it. And I'm just not going to listen to you, quite frankly. And it comes from my schooling. I'm a graphic designer, and they've always taught me if you can't answer why, then you can't put it on the page.
Wow, what's that look like in the world of graphic design? Like, what do you mean they say, tell me why? How does that work in the world of art?
Well, everything you put on there has to have a purpose. Especially with graphic design, you're creative problem solving. You're solving something, but you got to stay inside the box while being original. And if you put something on a poster just for fluff and you can't back it up with a reason, then they'll just literally rip it off the wall. And I've had work ripped off the wall and thrown at me before. So
I believe it.
That's the way art school works.
Jason Ryals, owner of Tomahawk Baseball Academy. Jay, baseball has not been a game over the years that's quick to change. The idea of you being the head coach or you calling the game from first base is going to strike some people as radical. Do you expect that reaction, and are you prepared for it?
I really don't care, to be quite honest with you. I coach my team the way I'm going to coach my team, and if you don't like it, then enjoy losing. It's that simple. I do stuff. Some of it is just experimenting to see if it'll work. Some of it is for the kid to get better. We'll try something, just say, hey, try it. I don't care. Let's see what happens if the game dictates. I mean, I deal with travel balls, so the score really doesn't matter that much, so you can experiment a little bit more. When I coach my high school, it's a little different because each game matters, but I'll just do it. I mean, why, if your job is trying to either get a kid better or win a game, why would you copy everybody else? I mean, it just doesn't make sense to me. So me going to first base, I mean, just is what it is. I mean,
yeah. Let's talk about why it's beneficial for you. You know, let's put it in this frame of reference. After the game, you're coaching against another team, and they really seem to respect what you're doing. I have to believe someone's going to come up to you at some point and say, why are you over at first, coach? What's the philosophy behind that? And what do you tell them?
Surprisingly, not very many do.
Wow.
Because they can't get away from copying what everybody else does. But I've had a few, and the reason is simple. How many times does a player reach first base compared to third? So, and if second base is the goal because you're in scoring position, wouldn't you try to help your players get to second base as much as possible? I mean, you're only gonna, I think there 17 different ways to score.
Yeah.
So it's kind of hard to screw up third base unless you're reading a relay wrong, but getting a kid and talking to a kid versus 50 signals. I really don't like giving signals during the game, but I'd rather just tell them and talk to them and have a conversation. And now everybody's on the same page versus guessing or missing signs and then yelling at each other. And Usually I like to cause the other team to yell at each other. I don't want my team yelling at each other.
You said a lot there that I want to unpack. One thing that jumped out at me, though, is the notion that a lot of coaches don't ask you about it. That surprises me a little bit. But you and I have discussed books and whatnot. What's the book that you talked about that really framed that for you in terms of thinking outside the box?
That was the name of the book. Is it the only rule it has to work? And what it was what was their podcast? There's a group of podcasters, but they're sabermetrics guys, and they got a hold of an independent league, and they got to run sabermetrics the way they wanted it. It wasn't conventional baseball. It was all based off sabermetrics. So does bunting work? Yes or no? Does shifts work? Why? And they explained it throughout the book, but they kept running into the manager because they wanted to throw the closer in mid-game to stop the big inning. And the manager said no because he's the closer, so he should close. And that was one of my favorite lines is he's the closer because he's the closer. And they said it about 20 times in the book, making fun of the manager.
Yeah, and we saw that come to light in the World Series a little bit, people getting a little bit more creative with how to use the closer.
Yeah, I like the theory of shutting down the big inning because if you have a good middle reliever, he can get 3 outs. But with the big inning, we all know the team scores more runs in that one inning than the other team in the entire game. So why wouldn't you want your best guy to shut that down?
Mm. And you say in the article you like your players to be thinking out loud. Can you say a little bit more about that?
Yeah, we actually had an example this weekend. It was great. Always having my players talk. You've run into it where they won't say anything. They just say, yeah, yes, coach. And you just get a blank stare, and then they go screw up and you get screamed at. Well, I've learned that if you allow them to have the comfort to ask you questions, and with me, I can answer why on everything I do. So I'm not afraid of telling them to do something because I can tell them why they're doing it. And even if they're right, wrong, or in between while we're discussing, they're digesting the information. So if we're talking and having a conversation and they have an idea or they might come up with something, we can reset and get on the same page because I don't know what's in their brain at the time of me talking. And if they're talking out loud because they're comfortable, then they might have an idea that might help another kid. So example, this weekend we had a kid and I was doing a hitting camp where he kept falling over. He'd fall over the plate. And the dad was saying that he's done it majority of his life and all his hitting coaches can't explain why. And, you instantly go to a balance issue. And I noticed his head was tipping. And I'd move his head and he's very uncomfortable. And then I stuck a set of keys on the fence and I'm like, just stare at the keys and swing. And he was straight up. He didn't fall over anymore. So we knew it was his head. And then I was just having a conversation and he said he wanted to get behind the ball. And I go, what does that mean? He goes, I just want to see behind the ball. And I was like, what do you mean, like bunting? And I demonstrated the proper way to bunt, which most people don't even know how to do that. And I got behind the bat and I was like this, where you could see the ball hit the bat. He goes, yeah. And I go, that's interesting. So that gave me the idea to check his peripheral vision, and we discovered that he has a huge peripheral vision problem.
Wow.
And so the next day he went to the eye doctor, and I was right. He can't see peripherally very well, and they're doing, doctor stuff way above my pay grade. And it's lining him back up, and he's not falling off the plate. But if we didn't have that discussion, we would have never found that. He would have never gave me that cue to look.
That's powerful stuff, and that illustrates a lot of what I've liked about our relationship so far is that started with a little anecdote, almost like an old school, let's look at the keys on the fence, and it kind of turned into something scientific. Where do you come down with your coaching in terms of science versus the art of coaching?
Well, I'm always trying to solve a problem. So everything I look at, it's a problem. Each kid's a problem, each team's a problem, each game's a problem. I use science and reading all these to take out pretty much the BS of coaching. The way I've kind of seen it is coaching over the years is played by word of mouth. So if I tell you something, you go tell somebody, you go tell somebody, they go tell somebody. It gets screwed up along the way. Well, with these science guys, these guru guys, you're starting from the first person. So it makes things so much simpler and easier, and you just take out the BS. Like, for instance, squashing the bug. Well, squashing the bug makes sense when you're doing what's right, which is release the back foot, which looks like squashing the bug. So I can see over time how that squashing the bug got popular, but they just lost the meaning of it. And when you get into the science of it, well, that explains that, squashing the bug really makes sense when you break it down, but it's really, he should be saying release the back foot.
Got it. And then we talk about science, and we talk about people listening to one another. What percentage of coaches out there do you think actually do coach first base?
2. Me and my coaching partner, Todd Meeks.
Wow.
We're about it. And then I've noticed that with the littler guys, the 8-year-olds and stuff, and I've even noticed now they're not even coaching third; they're going into the dugout, which that's a little better than third. But
so you rank them first dugout, then third.
Yeah, that probably Because really, with third, all I got to do is I've had kids coach third. You just tell them how to send and stop runners, and it takes about 2 minutes, and
well, the devil's advocate in me says, "Oh well, you're putting a lot on the kid there to send a kid to score the winning run for the section title." How do you respond to that?
Man up. I mean, I'm not going to send anybody. I'm going to send the captain or someone who has a base running brain. But also you're thinking high school. I'm thinking travel ball. Usually you're by yourself.
Yeah. So
the championship game, usually that kid's already been coaching it a couple games. I'm not going to send anybody, but it's good for him, because in travel ball, it should be about the kid growing. If a kid's coaching bases, then he's teaching, which we both know teaching is better than listening because you learn more. So he gets to see what we see, and now you have a coach that's a player on the base pass, which to me makes a way more dangerous player than someone sitting in the dugout wondering what next video game he's going to be playing.
He is the founder of Tomahawk Baseball Academy. So teach me, Jason, some of the advantages. Sell me on, I know you don't have to sell anybody, but teach me about what the advantages are being at first base.
I used to coach third base. I'm not saying I didn't do it. But in a game, I was trying to yell at a kid to delay still. And the catcher was just being lazy, and I was trying to relay the information, and the kid just had a stare look, because we really didn't have a signal for when the catcher's knees hit the ground, go. Because the catcher would keep dropping to his knee. So mid hit or mid batter, I just switched places with my first base coach and told my base runner exactly what to do. And next pitch, he was gone. And that's really the start of it. And I haven't went back to third since that moment. And so that's what we do. And I've even designed different things. I don't just stay in one spot either. Each spot I stand has a purpose. A lot of people make fun of me for talking to the umpire so much, but I'm really not talking to the umpire. I'm actually standing in the baseline so that when my base runners run to first, they don't have to look at the ball. They're looking at me, and I can tell them to go, stop, or retreat.
Are you talking about from a lead or when they're taking a base hit?
A base hit.
Okay.
I'm standing next to the umpire. I've only had one umpire. If you're nice, they'll let you stand there. But if you're a butthead, then they're going to send you back to the box. And I've only had one umpire send me back to the box for no reason, because they just want to chat. They sit in the pros or college. So they just think you're chatting. And actually, I'm chatting so that I can stand there.
Wow. So without giving away trade secrets, but what kind of things are you saying in the short period of time that you have there at first to get a kid to delay steal once the catcher's knee hits?
Well, we have I'm pretty big into base running. So my guys are pretty aggressive at all times. And I'll just tell them, I'll give them a couple pitches, and I'll just be like, time up the catcher, he's dropping to a knee. We run off the timing of the pitcher. So our signal system to the base runner at first base is actually verbal information, and I tell them what to do and what the timing of the pitcher is. And if they disagree, then they're allowed to disagree, but we're having a conversation in code, and the first baseman doesn't have a clue. When they get to second base, we'll get the hand signals and things like that, but that's how we're communicating. We just, chat real quick. So that's kind of how we talk.
I could also, the obvious one is helping to see the pitchers move, I would imagine, throwing over.
Yeah, well, it's really, pitchers are predictable. They're and I was a pitcher in college, so the number one thing is to get in a rhythm. Well, we just exploit that. And usually it doesn't take much to figure out a pitcher's pick move. He's either really long at holding the ball or really quick. But really, we're getting how long does he hold the ball, and we're counting. So it'd be like 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi, and that's what we're basing our jumps on. And we don't care what the catcher's pop times are at all. We run a running joke is the catcher doesn't stop us from stealing second; he just makes it easier.
And you would classify yourself as a relatively aggressive coach, it sounds like.
Oh, by far. I get bored. So we call it controlled chaos. We want to control the chaos. And you do that with base running. And you can equalize a way more powerful team if you can get in their head. And you saw it with Coastal Carolina versus Arizona. Coastal had no business winning the World Series, but they did it with base running and obviously culture, which is something I'm digging heavy into right now. But, they did it with base running. And Gary Gilmore, when I first started coaching, was one of the first ones to introduce me to it. I got lucky and saw him at a conference and went and said hi. Obviously he didn't have a clue who I am, but he greatly influenced thinking outside the box.
It's interesting. I thought I was having a conversation with you about why you should coach first, but it's turning into a little bit more about the whole idea of base running. This is fascinating to me because it sounds like it's a whole approach that you have to the game.
Well, yeah, coaching first is about base running. It's not about scoring runs. It's about getting the guy to the next bag, and everything is base running. I'm trying to win games, and you only have so much talent on the field when you're dealing with high school. So how do you win when the team's better than you? And you can do it with base running. And so that's why I went to first, is to enhance the base running and to teach the kids the base running. And again, going back to travel ball, we have turnovers every week. I could have 2 or 3 new players each weekend, and constantly teaching them base running before the game just doesn't work. So we just do it in game. And that's one of my second positions is I'll get in line with my base runner and the pitcher so I can become the base runner. And I'm just constantly talking to him, and we'll do fake steal after fake steal after fake steal until he gets his timing down. So we're actually practicing in game, and I'll just tell him if he's late or early on his jump, and all he's doing is getting a fake steal. And then once he gets comfortable, then I'll cut him loose and let him take second. And then it becomes a whole new game after that.
I feel like the first baseman probably doesn't enjoy the repartee between the two of you.
Honestly, the first baseman's ask me more questions than their coaches do. I've taught first basemen how to steal bases as much as my own guys. Because at travel ball, I'm never going to see them again. It's rare that we play the same team twice all season or for a long time. Well, I'm also in the mecca of travel ball, so there are teams we see often. But yeah, I'll teach anybody if they want to learn. I'm gonna teach them. I don't hold an ego. So
I'm getting that sense about you. The one thing that keeps ringing true in my head is the idea of fun. We know that baseball can get stuffy. We get very set in our ways, and I don't think you're afflicted with that. Is that part of the approach to kind of make sure that you remind yourself that this is a fun game?
Part of it, yeah. I mean, I have fun naturally, but it's kind of my new saying is, in order to develop players, I have to develop myself. So if you're not trying new things, how are you growing? And then if you're not growing, how are your players growing? So base running just happens to be a lot of fun, especially when other people don't know what you're doing and you're just running all over the place. Well, I mean, when I first was last time I was coaching high school teams, we were trying to see how many Gatorade jugs we could get thrown. The record's 3 in one season. The coach threw a chair or a Gatorade jug during the game, and my teams are just cracking up because they know what's going on because they've been taught why they're doing it. So when they see other coaches not knowing, they get a chuckle.
How long does it take to implement it to where you feel a team is comfortable?
It depends if is it a brand new team from scratch?
Yeah.
The basics, a game, couple innings. Once you get one kid that gets it, then it'll just spread because he can explain it in the dugout and show them. And it really kicks, like whenever if I get a high school team or a team from scratch, we'll go watch a game and then I'll just point stuff out during the game. And I think I did it with you. You went and watched a pro game and you could see it.
Yes. The timing at the pro level, even on how the pitcher came set at the belt, so to speak, was extremely, extremely regular.
Yeah. I mean, it's because they're taught to get in a rhythm. That's what all pitchers are taught to do. And to disrupt that rhythm gives the team a drastic advantage, the offensive team. And that's the point. I'm just trying to mess with the pitcher's rhythm. You know, we're not trying to steal second. We're just trying to aggravate you.
Yeah, I know. I know you and I had a ton of fun co-writing the Inside Pitch magazine article, and this is even going next level now as I could pick your brain a little bit. I mean, what am I forgetting to ask you? What else should I be tapping into here while I have you on the line?
I mean, I could go for days about base running. I love it. What you're going to run into is when you really start to, one, you have to commit. All right. One of the biggest problems is coaches stop controlling everything. Just stop it. Let the kids fail. Really. I mean, I tell kids the first thing I say when we're base running, you're going to get thrown out. Now, don't get thrown out because it's your fault. Get thrown out because they made a good play. And once they get comfortable with, okay, I'm not going to get yelled at for getting thrown out, well, then they'll take risks because with base running, it's small windows that open and close. And if the kids are waiting for you to tell them to go, well, the window closed, and now he's going to get thrown out. So, and what happens is when coaches are learning for the first time themselves, the first time they fail, they stop. They go, "Oh, this doesn't work. I'm not doing it." You know, and there's a learning curve. I mean, like I said, I think we talked about it is assistant coach being at third base and he gets a kid thrown out. Okay, he got a kid thrown out. Does he know why he got a kid thrown out? Now, if he knows why, then discuss it and reset and let him get another kid thrown out. If he doesn't know why, then we have a problem. And then you got to either teach him again or get him off third base. And that's where we go. I mean, kids get thrown out every now and then with us, and they'll go, "Coach, man, I saw him wiggle, and I thought it was a tail, and I took off." And I go, "No, he just wiggled." But the kid explained me why. We're good. Or if he explains me why and he's wrong, then I'll tell him why he's wrong, and then we're good to go. So it's all about learning. I mean, they're kids. Let them learn. I mean, they're learning the game of baseball. Coaches are learning the game of baseball. We're always learning new material. If you're afraid to experiment and try it, then why are you trying to win? No one is successful by copying the person next to them. If you do what everybody else does, you're going to lose like everyone else. So you have to be unique in some way. The Cubs tried a new strategy, and it worked. They went young everyday players with veteran pitchers. No one else tried that before, and it worked. But you got to stay committed to the path and do it. Believe in it. And if you believe in it, your kids will believe in it.
The one group we haven't discussed, and I'm trying to be diplomatic here, is the parents. So whether it's high school or travel ball, there's parents that I would say the one easiest place to criticize is the bases. They see it, they say, oh, he should never have sent him, why are we getting picked off here, et cetera, et cetera. How do you handle it, explaining your system, or how do you go about making everyone be aware of what's happening on the field with the parent group?
Well, this one's fun because it's about as controversial as standing at first base. I'm not sure if you're prepared for this.
Try me.
When I'm teaching, the parents are standing right next to me. Here's why I do it. If the parents are on the same page with me, then the kids get better. So the kids are allowed to discuss, and so are the parents are allowed to discuss with me as well. And we'll sit there and have a conversation until we're all on the same page. So all of my parents know exactly what we're doing, and that if I get a kid thrown out because I'm just accessible to get screwing up as everybody else is. I know we keep going back to the World Series because I just finished your podcast, but Joe Madden screwed up 3 times in my opinion during that game. Like, he could have lost that Game 7 3 times because he made royal mistakes, but he didn't lose from it. The team overcome from it. But he screwed up just like everybody else. I mean, everybody screws up, but if the parents are on the same page as you and the players are on the same page as you, then you don't really have problems. And that's where it is. Because granted, a lot of my coaching is unconventional. I use science, which is against almost 99% of what other people learn and teach. But if everybody involved is in the same conversation, then we don't really have a problem.
Got a few questions about that before we wrap up. Thanks for mentioning the KWB radio podcast. I am lucky enough to host with at KW Baseball at Kevin Wilson. You can go back and listen to episode 42 where we do break down the entire World Series and see if you agree with Coach Ryals with Madden messing up. But I love what you said, that it wasn't fatal. And if mistakes aren't fatal, we live to play another day. I have to ask a follow-up. What's the conversation like? You're taking over a new team and you invite the parents on the field. How's that go?
They're weird at first because, like everything else, if you're building a culture, and I'm a big, this is something recent that I've really dove into. I suggest everybody check out Brian Kane. And I got it from Gary Gilmore again. The ABCA podcast with Gary talking about culture really made me view things. It doesn't matter what your culture is, just have one, and it's important in terms of having a program, winning and losing. And if your culture dictates an open book, then have an open book and invite them in. They got to learn. Parents have to learn. Kids have to learn. You have to learn how to interact with each other to get the most out of all 3 of you. Because like it or not, parents are involved in kids' play. Some destroy kids, some build them up, some can help you, but involve the parents. And it's some recent for me because I used to hate parents, to be quite honest with you. But I just had to get over it.
I hear you. I mean, what you really mean is you hated the parents, quote unquote, meddling, but at the same time, once you opened the door to them, you probably noticed the relationship was quite different. And I know we're both parents, and there's probably a lot of parents listening, so that's a huge takeaway. Jay, where can we find more of your work? Where can we find you an online presence?
Well, I'm on. I got my website, which is Eat Baseball. The team was East Atlanta Tomahawks, so the kids like to eat when they hit doubles. That's where it came from. So eatbaseball.com. I'm on Twitter. What is my Twitter name?
You're at Coach Ryals, nice and clean.
There you go.
Ryals.
I more read everybody else's Twitter than actually post Twitter stuff. So, but I'm open, and you can email me at jason@eatbaseball.com, and I'm happy to talk. I mean, I'll help anybody. If you want to know, I'll tell you. Just make sure you know the question, because I'm gonna give you an answer. So.
Yeah, I love it, man. I mean, did you have any fun with the talk here in the article for Inside Pitch?
Oh, I had a blast. I mean, you got me going. You got me going in this chat. I mean, I could go for days.
Yeah, we got to thank Adam and the gang for Inside Pitch for having us linked up to the conversation here. I have a feeling, Jay, there's going to be more in the future with us too. Hopefully, people will dictate that they want to hear more. But if not, we'll turn the mics off, and I'll be hearing more from you.
Absolutely. I mean, I love talking, hitting, base running, pitching, all of it. I'll just get into it.
My one takeaway today, of all things, getting 1% better, is that you are not afraid. You are not afraid to invent, innovate, try things, question the status quo. I can only imagine how awesome things are rocking and rolling at the Tomahawk Baseball Academy, and I will get down there. I'm coming to you from the Northeast right now, but I'm getting down there, even though I haven't had the formal invitation yet.
Oh, you can always come down. I'll throw you in. You can share the bed with my 3-year-old.
Yes.
He loves to cuddle.
I love it. And one more time, you can find Jason at Coach Ryals, and he's definitely you got charts, you got information everywhere at eatbaseball.com. You can find me at Ferraro on air at FERRARO22. And the project that I'm most excited about right now is the 1% Better project. Content, strategies, things that'll make your life better, from a great cup of coffee to the sustained excellence of marginal gains. Jason, thanks so much for taking the time, my man.
Oh, anytime. Thanks for having me.
For Jason Ryals, I'm Joe Ferraro, and to all Inside Pitch listeners and anyone else who has had the opportunity to listen to Jason, you can't say we didn't get 1% better today. Thank you for listening, and until next time.